Hey, this is a great story. It's got everything in it. It's got AOC transparently revealing that she's a hypocrite in line with the oligarchs and doesn't give a shit about workers, and it's got workers winning over Amazon. So this is really meaty story. So let's get to it. I'm here with American comedian Kurt Metzger. So here it is. So AOC tweeted out, "Yay, what she's doing is taking credit for the Amazon labor union with Christian Smalls started in Staten Island, and they won their vote to start their union." That's the story. That's the story. She then retweets it with, "Yeah, union strong, right? We did it. It was tough, but with a little luck and a lot of work, AOC and the gang helped make the Amazon union a reality." Of course, I'm kidding. She ghosted them when they started their strike. And she ghosted them. It
was a security issue. That's what
Can you imagine going AWOL in a war, then showing up after it's over to wave a flag in the victory parade? Because that's what AOC's doing there. So let's get into the story. Amazon workers on Staten Island vote to unionize in a landmark win for labor. It was a union organizing campaign that few expected to have a chance. A handful of employees at Amazon's massive warehouse on Staten Island, operating without support from national labor organizations, took on one of the most powerful companies in the world, and somehow they won. So this is so inspiring because we had Christian on right as soon as he got fired. Remember, they fired him?
Yeah, I remember that.
And we had him on, and then they did a smear campaign that got revealed. They tried to smear Christian Smalls.
I couldn't believe that story when I saw it,
yeah,
Jimmy.
Those are people from the Obama administration who now work at Amazon. Were sitting around ways to discredit Christian Smalls, a worker who stood up for other workers.
You thought the Applebee's memo was embarrassing.
Right. Workers at the facility voted by a wide margin to form a union, according to the results on Friday, in one of the biggest victories for organized labor in a generation. Employees cast 2,654 votes to be represented by Amazon Labor Union and 2,131 votes against, giving the union a win by more than 10 percentage points. More than 8,300 workers at the warehouse, which is the only Amazon fulfillment center in New York City, were eligible to vote. The win on Staten Island comes at a perilous moment for labor unions in the United States, which saw the portion of workers in unions drop last year to 10.3%, the lowest rate in decades, despite high demand for workers, pockets of successful labor activity, and rising public approval. So here's U.S. Unions, and so I don't know if you can see this, but back in 1995, over 20% of American workers were in unions. Now, you come down to 2015, it's barely over 10%, 10.5%, and I'm sure it's lower than that. And now here's the income disparity. So you want to see another chart? So the share of the income going to the top 10%, and then this is the union membership. So you see how it's almost inverted?
That's amazing.
Isn't that kind of amazing? But are we sure these things are connected? I mean, each side of the chart is a perfect mirror inverse of the other, but I don't know.
How could it be that stark of at the same rate?
It's amazing. So critics, including some labor officials, say the traditional unions haven't spent enough money or shown enough imagination in organizing campaigns, and that they've often bet on the wrong fights. Some point to tawdry corruption scandals. Wow. While others aren't being paid as consultants to an oligarch. That's what that is.
Yeah, right.
The union victory at Amazon, the first at the company in the United States after years of worker activism here, offers an enormous opportunity to change that trajectory and build on recent wins. Many union leaders regard Amazon as an existential threat to labor standards because it touches so many industries and frequently dominates them. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't even know this was Christian Smalls doing this, right? I didn't know I knew the guy who was actually doing this. So that's kind of... So I remember after Trump won, I wanted to do something like this. I turned to Cenk Uygur and I said, hey, let's do something big. He said, like what? I said, let's unionize the Walmarts in California. Let's do something. And of course, that's when he famously turned to me and said, Jimmy, I'm not that big on unions. That's your progressive hero.
Justice is coming.
And instead he went out, and so instead him and Kyle Kalinske got together and created another third party inside the Democratic Party, which is not a third party. It's just another fucking funnel sheep herding operation of progressives into a pro-corporate, pro-Wall Street, pro-war, anti-worker party. So that's, instead of organizing and unionizing Walmart workers, we got more Democrats to turn their back on us. Okay.
You know, I think the Christian Smalls thing is, ultimately, that's great that it's him, like a guy from Amazon, because somebody else coming in and organizing, I bet it's not going to be as successful. You know?
Right. It had to come from a grassroots kind of a thing. But the win by a little-known independent union with few ties to existing groups appears to raise as many questions for the labor movement as it answers. Not least whether there is something fundamentally broken with the traditional bureaucratic union model that can be solved by replacing it with grassroots organizations like the one on Staten Island. Is that a real question?
Yeah, what the fuck?
The question is there something fundamentally broken with the traditional bureaucratic union model that can be solved only by replacing it with grassroots organizations like the one on Staten Island? Is there something wrong with the various legacy establishment fucks who haven't done anything for these people? Yes. Yes, there's something wrong with the legacy establishment union fucks who aren't doing shit for anybody in this country right now. Yes. Yes.
But fundamentally?
Fundamentally. Amazon is likely to aggressively contest the union's win. An unsigned statement on its corporate blog said, "We're disappointed with the outcome of this election in Staten Island because we believe having a direct relationship with the company is best for our employees." Hey, they want you to directly piss in a bottle while you're working for them. All right? We don't need a union getting in the middle of that. We want you to directly go into an ambulance once you pass out because we don't have air conditioning at our fulfillment center. We want you to directly go to an ambulance to an emergency room. We don't want a union in there getting a fan blown on you or some shit. So they like having a direct relationship with their employees, as in they like telling them to go fuck themselves directly when asked to improve their sub-robot working conditions. That's what they like. The Staten Island outcome followed what appears likely to be a narrow loss by the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union at a large Amazon warehouse in Alabama. The vote is close enough that the results will not be known for several weeks as contested ballots are litigated. Yeah, the vote was close enough in Alabama that the results will not be known for several weeks until Amazon officials can figure a way how to invalidate that vote. That's what that is. Okay. The surprising strength shown by unions in both locations most likely means that Amazon will face years of pressure at other company facilities from labor groups and progressive activists working with them. As a recent string of union victories at Starbucks have shown, wins at one location can provide encouragement at another location. It's not surprising. Amazon is so shitty that a union was forced to form. It doesn't take a penis rocket scientist to figure it out. Amazon sucks. They're shitty. Okay. Watch this. Here's Jim Cramer going to tell you.
Well, we know that the union work rules are what everything is about. It's the same case with Starbucks, too. If you can't tell your employees when they work, then you're really not able to have much of an ability to be able to move product or move coffee. And I think that the unions will be in charge of time that you need to work. And that would be dreadful very dreadful for Andy Jassy.
And that's just a U.S. picture, right?
Yeah.
They got Europe to think about as well.
Look, one of the problems was, Starbucks does indeed have unionized places in the ones that they franchise. But if you can't control the work rules, no one wants to work certain shifts. So you can.
Are you kidding?
So this is Jim Cramer saying that if you have a union, your company will shut down. That's what he's saying. He's saying if a union controls the labor, then that's horrible you can't have that. You mean the worker doesn't get a say? That's what he's saying. If a worker has a say in their employment, it's horrible.
Even his face while he's saying this asshole, it's not that they don't want to work certain shifts. They want to be paid
to work those shifts.
In fact, when they're getting overtime, people want the shifts.
Yes. If they're getting paid overtime, people actually want to work overtime because they're making more money per hour.
Wow.
Yeah. But Jim Cramer, if you can't exercise complete control over your employees, you can't make as much profit. Can you imagine Jim Cramer in 1860? If you can't tell your workers when they work, then you can't move cotton. You can't move cotton. He keeps saying it.
Listen, I'm not going to work that shift. And Amazon would not be able to say, yes, you must work it. So that's what at stake with union is time that you have to work.
Our thanks to Dean. We're going to watch developments in New York.
We have more on the
Alabama.
tech check?
I imagine we will.
Because she's doing amazing work. This is a very important story because one of the reasons why Amazon works so well is because people work when Amazon says you must work.
I didn't even hear that part and made that slave. Unbelievable.
The reason why Amazon works so well is because people have to work when Amazon says you have to work.
Finish the sentence, Jim. For free.
Right.
They tell you what shift for free.
Amazon hired voraciously over the past 2 years and now has 1.6 million employees globally. But it has been plagued by high turnover, and the pandemic gave employees a growing sense of power while fueling worries about workplace safety. The Staten Island warehouse, known as JFK8, was the subject of a New York Times investigation last year, which found that it was emblematic of the stresses, including inadvertent firings and sky-high attrition, on workers caused by Amazon's employment model. So Jim Cramer was like, you've got to allow sweatshop conditions. You got to allow sweatshop conditions in the richest country in the world, or else we won't be able to make money, according to CNBC.
You know, their employment model is Amazon abuses them and keeps down a union long enough for robots to be invented so they don't need humans to do that job anymore. That's the plan. That was their plan.
Yes. Here we go. The pandemic has fundamentally changed the labor landscape by giving workers more leverage with their employers, said John Logan, a professor of labor. It's just a question of whether unions can take advantage of the opportunity that transformation has opened up. I think they can. I'll tell you, Applebee's is shitting their cowboy jeans right now, hoping that memo doesn't trigger a union. Standing outside the NLR, that's the National Labor Relations Board office in Brooklyn, where the ballots were tallied, Christian Smalls, a former Amazon employee who started the union, popped a bottle of champagne before a crowd of supporters and press. To the first Amazon union in American history, he cheered. Oh, that's so good to hear. That really almost
good for that guy. I remember that story vividly.
It almost brings a tear to my eye. It's so sweet that he is so victorious right now. I could not be happier for Christian Smalls. So there it is. They win. It's a big deal. We have our first Amazon union, and maybe that'll start a union wave across the country, and maybe it'll get picked up at Walmart's, and maybe we'll have a living wage and proper working conditions for the people who generate billions and trillions of dollars for Jeff Bezos and the Walmart family. Hey, we're doing our live stand-up tour. We're going to be in Orlando. We're going to be in Tampa, Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, much, much more. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets. And you can come see our shows in Los Angeles, too. We do one weekly. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com and become a premium member while you're there. Get all the extra content. Thank you.